Have you ever considered that your everyday morning routine might not be as harmless as it seems? Most of us wake up, enjoy a cup of coffee, toast, some bread, and settle into a familiar spot every morning. It's comforting. It's a part of the daily rhythm that feels like home. But what if one simple aspect of that routine, something you've been doing for years, could secretly raise your risk for heart problems, dizziness, or even sudden fainting? That's exactly what happened to my neighbor. Harold, a 76-year-old man who wasn't sick and had no major health warnings. One morning, after having his usual breakfast of black coffee and toast with jam, he stood up, felt lightheaded, and then everything went black. The doctors later explained, it wasn't just bad luck. It was a combination of low blood sugar, dehydration, and a spike in cortisol, all triggered by his seemingly harmless breakfast habit. As we age, our bodies don't react the same way they once did. A habit that seemed perfectly fine at 45 can be risky at 75, especially in the early hours of the day. In this video, I want to walk you through the breakfast habit that is silently putting so many older adults at risk, and show you how just making a couple of small changes could protect your heart, brain, and balance. I'm not here to alarm you. I'm simply here to help you notice the little things that often go unnoticed. These small details can add up over time, because breakfast isn't just about filling your stomach. It sets the tone for your entire day. It impacts how your brain functions, how steady your hands are, how well your heart manages stress, and whether you'll have the energy and strength to do the things you love without feeling dizzy or fatigued. What makes things tricky is that the breakfast mistakes many older adults make don't feel like mistakes at all. They feel familiar, like comfort, like home. But after years of following the same routine, your body might be trying to tell you that it needs something different now. So in this video, we'll go over 6 subtle but common breakfast habits that might be affecting your health, and I'll show you exactly how to make gentle fixes. These aren't drastic changes, but small shifts and thoughtful choices that could help you feel steadier, sharper, and more energetic every morning. Before we dive into today's tips, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more helpful content like this. We share practical advice designed to improve your mornings and your overall well-being. Now let's begin with the first and perhaps the most overlooked mistake of all. Mistake number 1, skipping protein every morning. Some habits follow us through life, without us ever questioning them. They start off small and become routine, eventually feeling like second nature. For many older adults, breakfast becomes one of those routines. It's simple and familiar. A slice of toast, maybe with jam or butter, and a hot cup of black coffee, and that's it. No extra fuss. It feels light, easy, and sufficient. But the truth is, skipping protein at breakfast might be quietly working against you, especially after the age of 65. Take my neighbor George, for example. A kind man in his early 70s who always seemed full of life. He had the same breakfast every day, toast, jam, and coffee, nothing else. He told me he didn't have much of an appetite in the mornings and preferred to keep it simple. For years, this routine seemed to serve him well, but gradually George began to feel more tired. His legs felt shaky when he walked down the porch steps. One morning he stood up from the table and had to grab the counter to steady himself. That was when his daughter insisted he see a doctor. The doctor's visit didn't show any major health issues at first. His heart was steady, his blood pressure mostly normal. But when asked about his diet, George explained his minimal breakfast. The doctor gently pointed out that he wasn't getting any protein in the morning, and that for someone his age, this could make a significant difference. As we age, our bodies naturally lose muscle mass. This loss doesn't just make us weaker, it also affects balance, metabolism, and even how well we handle stress. Protein plays a crucial role in maintaining muscle mass, and without it, we become more vulnerable to fatigue, dizziness, and even falls on top of that. Starting the day with just toast and jam, mainly carbohydrates, can cause a spike in your blood sugar, followed by a crash, which can leave you feeling drained, shaky, or mentally foggy. It's not just about the calories, it's about the quality of those calories. and whether they support the systems that keep you strong and steady. The good news is, fixing this doesn't require a major diet overhaul. George didn't start preparing elaborate breakfasts. He simply added a bit of protein to what he was already eating. Some mornings it was a hard-boiled egg. In the mornings, George added a spoonful of Greek yogurt or a slice of cheese alongside his toast. Occasionally, he'd have a few almonds or a tablespoon of peanut butter after. Just a few weeks, he noticed a difference. His energy felt more stable, and the unsteady feeling in his legs disappeared. Breakfast doesn't need to be complicated, but it does need to be intentional. Giving your body a small source of protein in the morning is like giving it the tools it needs to stay steady, stay focused, and move through the day with confidence. Even if you're already including some protein in your breakfast, there's another common trap many people fall into, a mistake. That may seem harmless, but can quickly cause an energy crash before lunchtime. Mistake number 2, eating sugary cereals or toast with jam. There's something comforting about a sweet breakfast. A bowl of cereal with a little crunch and a hint of honey flavor, a slice of toast with jam, or perhaps a glass of orange juice. For many, especially those who grew up in simpler times, this kind of breakfast feels nostalgic, familiar, and easy. It feels like a gentle way to start the day without overwhelming the body. But what feels easy on the surface can over time have a surprisingly negative effect on how the body feels and functions. Take my friend Eleanor, for example. She's 73, sharp as ever, and always quick with a joke. Her morning routine hadn't changed in decades. She'd pour herself a bowl of sweet cereal toast, a piece of white bread, and spread a generous spoonful of strawberry jam. She told me it made her feel cheerful like a good morning should. But recently she started noticing something. By mid-morning, her hands would shake slightly. Her heart would flutter a little after climbing the stairs. One day she said it felt like the floor moved under her feet when she stood up too quickly. At first she laughed it off. Probably just me being dramatic, she said. But after a few more incidents, she agreed to speak with her doctor. The conversation took her by surprise. It wasn't about aging or medication. It was about blood sugar. The doctor explained that eating refined sugar and simple carbs without protein or fiber to balance them causes a rapid spike in blood glucose. This spike might give a quick burst of energy, but it's followed by a crash. And for seniors, this crash isn't just about feeling tired. It can lead to dizziness, poor focus, and even increase the risk of falling. More importantly, without enough protein and fiber, the body struggles to stabilize after the drop. Over time, this daily roller coaster of highs and lows puts extra stress on the heart and brain, making everyday tasks feel more difficult than they should have been. Eleanor had never considered cereal and toast as risky. They were easy, sweet, and provided a sense of routine. But once she understood what was happening in her body, she was ready to change the pattern. She didn't give up her morning joy. She simply rebalanced it. She started choosing unsweetened oatmeal and added blueberries for natural sweetness. Instead of jam, she spread almond butter on whole grain toast. And on mornings, when she wanted something simpler, she ate a hard-boiled egg before pouring her coffee. Within 2 weeks, she told me the shaky feeling had disappeared. She said her energy felt more even, like her mornings weren't slipping away from her anymore. That small shift, replacing sugar with something steady, gave her a renewed sense of control over her day. Sometimes the sweetest routines aren't the ones made with sugar. They're the ones that leave you feeling steady, strong, and ready to embrace the day. Not just for comfort, but for the strength to fully enjoy the life you love. Breakfast isn't just about what you eat, it's also about what you drink. For many, the first drink of the day is a cup of coffee. And that brings us to the third mistake. Mistake number 3, drinking coffee on an empty stomach. For many people, especially those who live alone, coffee isn't just a drink. It's a companion. It's the sound of the coffee machine bubbling quietly in the kitchen, the warmth of the mug in your hands, the smell that fills the house, making the morning feel real. A lot of older adults start their day with a simple cup of black coffee, often before eating anything at all. It feels like a gentle wake-up call, a small pleasure. But few realize that drinking coffee on an empty stomach can quietly create problems that grow over time. That's exactly what happened to Mr. Jennings, a retired piano teacher who lives just down the street. At 78, he still practiced every morning, drove to the store on weekends, and called his granddaughter every Friday. But one day, while walking around the neighborhood, he suddenly felt lightheaded. His heart started racing, his palms felt clammy, and for a few moments he thought he might pass out. It passed quickly, but it left him shaken. When it happened again the following week, this time while sitting at the piano, he decided to see his doctor. After a full checkup, the doctor reassured him that nothing was seriously wrong, no signs of a heart condition, no stroke. But then she asked about his mornings. He told her he always drank 1 or 2 cups of coffee right after waking up, long before eating anything. She nodded and explained that while coffee itself isn't dangerous, having it on an empty stomach, especially as you get older, can cause a spike in cortisol, the body's stress hormone, leading to feelings of anxiety, jitteriness, heart palpitations, or even nausea. Caffeine also stimulates stomach acid production, and when there's no food in the stomach to absorb that acid, it can irritate the stomach lining, causing discomfort or even long-term digestive issues. More importantly, drinking coffee first thing in the morning without any fuel in the tank can lower blood sugar even further, especially when the body's energy reserves are already depleted after a long night without food. Mr. Jennings hadn't known any of this. Coffee had always felt safe, comforting even. But once he understood how it was affecting his body, he made a small adjustment. He started drinking a glass of warm water right after waking, then having a small breakfast, sometimes just half a banana or a piece of toast with peanut butter before having his first cup of coffee. Within a few days, the shaky feeling disappeared. His energy felt more stable, his thoughts clearer. He didn't stop drinking coffee, he simply gave his body something to support it first. It turns out that coffee, while a lovely ritual, works best when it's paired with care. The smell, the warmth, the comfort are all still there. But when your body has a little something to hold on to first, that comfort turns into strength. And that's the kind of morning we all deserve. Of course, some people skip the coffee. In fact, some people skip breakfast altogether. And that brings us to a habit that's more dangerous than most people realize. Mistake number 4, skipping breakfast altogether. There's a certain pride that comes with not needing much. Many older adults will tell you they've never been breakfast people. Some say they don't feel hungry in the mornings, while others say they've just never gotten into the habit. A hot cup of coffee or a glass of water, and they're off to start their day, start the day. But what seems like a simple, harmless routine can gradually take a toll on the body, especially when breakfast is skipped completely, day after day. Take Mrs. Campbell, for example. At 75, she remains independent, still drives, and still sends handwritten cards to each of her 6 grandchildren. But over the past year, she began to feel off in the mornings. Sometimes it was a slight shakiness in her hands. Other times, it was a mental fog that made her forget where she placed her keys. She dismissed it as just part of aging. But one morning, while reaching for the top shelf in the pantry, she lost her balance and nearly fell. That moment made her stop and consider whether her body was trying to tell her something. At her checkup, her doctor asked the usual questions and then gently brought up her eating habits. When Mrs. Campbell explained that she didn't eat until late morning, or sometimes even noon, the doctor explained that skipping breakfast after a full night's sleep means starting the day with an empty tank. As we age, our bodies have a harder time maintaining blood sugar balance and muscle strength without regular nourishment. Going too long without eating in the morning can cause energy dips slower, reaction times, and even increase the risk of falling. The brain, too, depends on a steady flow of glucose, and when it doesn't get it, things like memory, focus, and mood can begin to suffer. Even if subtly, Mrs. Campbell had always believed eating less in the morning was better, lighter, cleaner, and easier. But now she realized that skipping breakfast wasn't making her stronger. It was making her vulnerable. She didn't need a big plate of pancakes or a full spread. She just needed something small to start her day. So she began with simple steps: a few slices of apple with peanut butter, half a piece of whole grain toast with cottage cheese. On colder mornings, a small bowl of oatmeal with cinnamon. She noticed the foggy feeling lifting. Her balance improved, and most importantly, she felt steadier, not just in her body but in her spirit. Skipping breakfast might seem harmless, but for older adults, it's often the first missed opportunity of the day to give the body what it truly needs. A little nourishment, a little kindness, a little fuel to say you're still here. Let's begin this day strong. But even when you do eat in the morning, there's something else that can quietly affect your well-being. It's not about what's on the plate, but the silence around it. Mistake. Number 5. Eating alone in silence. There's a quiet kind of emptiness that creeps in when meals become silent. Not just the kind where there's no one across the table, but the kind where even the room feels still, where the clink of the fork becomes the loudest sound, and where each bite feels like something you're simply getting through, not enjoying. Many seniors eat alone, and while there's nothing wrong with solitude, eating in complete silence day after day can slowly chip away at both the joy and nourishment of a meal. I remember Mrs. Evelyn, an 80-year-old widow who lived just 2 houses down from my aunt. She was elegant, always dressed neatly and always kind. After her husband passed, she kept to herself and said she liked the quiet, but over time it became clear something was missing. She stopped setting the table. Meals became crackers and cheese on a paper napkin. When asked, she'd smile and say mental clarity and energy. Without proper hydration, it's easy for the body to feel sluggish and for cognitive functions to feel clouded. Mr. Halpin didn't realize that his sluggish mornings were less about age and more about the lack of water after a long night of rest. The doctor explained that drinking water within the first hour of waking up helps kickstart the body's systems and rehydrates the brain, which can reduce feelings of fatigue and improve focus. For Mr. Halpin, the solution was simple. He started by drinking a glass of water right after getting out of bed, before reaching for his coffee. It wasn't a drastic change, but it made a noticeable difference. Within a few days, he felt more energized, and his morning fog lifted. He still enjoyed his coffee, but now it was after he had given his body the hydration it needed. The small change helped him feel more grounded, mentally clearer, and physically more alert. Hydration is often overlooked, but it's one of the simplest and most powerful ways to improve your mornings. 4. Older adults who might not feel thirsty right after waking, it's especially important to make water a priority. Whether it's a glass of water with a slice of lemon, a warm cup of herbal tea, or even a small bottle to sip throughout the morning, making hydration a part of your routine can lead to better energy, improved mood, and even enhanced physical stability. As we wrap up, these 6 breakfast mistakes may seem like small issues, but over time they can add up, affecting not just your mornings, but your overall well-being. Whether it's skipping protein, relying on sugary carbs, drinking coffee on an empty stomach, eating alone, or neglecting hydration, each of these habits can quietly impact your health and energy levels. The good news is that with a few small changes, adding protein, choosing balanced foods, hydrating early, and even introducing a little music or conversation, you can make your mornings a time of nourishment, both physically and emotionally. Remember, small steps lead to big changes, and by paying attention to these little habits, you can protect your heart, brain, and body as you age. So take a moment to reflect on your morning routine. Are there any of these habits that you might want to adjust? It's never too late to start making small, intentional choices that help you feel stronger, steadier, and more alive each day. Maintaining blood pressure and brain function is deeply connected to hydration. When you don't replenish water first thing in the morning, your organs have to work harder, your joints feel stiffer, and your mind may feel cloudy. For older adults, Even mild dehydration can lead to serious balance issues, slower thinking, and unnecessary fatigue. Mr. Halpern took the advice seriously. He didn't like cold water in the morning, so he began warming it slightly and kept a small glass by his bedside. Before his feet touched the floor, he'd sip half a cup. He was surprised by how quickly it made a difference. His mornings felt clearer, his energy more stable, and he even joked that his knees complained a little less when he bent down to tend to the roses. Drinking water may not seem like much. It doesn't come in a pill, and it doesn't require a prescription. But it's one of the simplest, most powerful habits you can add to your mornings. A glass of water is like telling your body, I'm here, I'm listening. Let's begin today with care. If you're still watching, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know which of these breakfast mistakes you might be guilty of, or what change you'll be trying first. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on more helpful tips like this one. Now, let's quickly recap the 6 breakfast mistakes we've talked about today. First, skipping protein. In the morning, leaves your body without the fuel it needs to start the day strong. Second, reaching for sugary cereals or toast with jam gives you a quick sugar rush but leaves you crashing soon after. Third, drinking coffee first thing without eating anything causes spikes in stress hormones and can leave you feeling jittery and unbalanced. Fourth, skipping breakfast altogether means you're starting your day on empty, setting yourself up for fatigue and poor focus. Fifth, eating in silence or alone can dampen your appetite and mood, making it harder to enjoy food. And lastly, not drinking water within the first hour of waking can lead to dehydration, leaving you feeling sluggish and tired. But the most important thing to remember is that all of this can change starting today. You have the power to make simple, easy adjustments that can help you feel stronger, more energized, and more balanced every single morning. Just adding protein to your breakfast, switching to healthier options, and hydrating your body first thing in the morning can make a huge difference in how you feel, how you think, and how you move through the day. Don't wait for tomorrow to start taking care of yourself. Start today. Each small change is a step toward a healthier, happier, and more vibrant you. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you found these breakfast tips helpful and that they'll inspire you to make small but powerful changes in your routine. If you've learned something new today, please share it with us in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. We always read every comment, and your feedback means the world to us. It helps us create even better content that's tailored to your needs. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next video. We've got more exciting tips and advice coming your way. Thanks again for your support, and we can't wait to see you in the next video.